Almost 80 years ago, a Jewish industrialist and avowed anti-Nazi, Ferenc Chorin, hid several paintings away in a bank vault before he and his family fled Hungary during World War II. When the contents of that vault were looted by Soviet forces during the siege of Budapest, and Chorin and his family settled in New York, they believed they would never see the paintings again. But over the years, Chorin's descendants have managed to recover a few, most recently one that landed at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston 40 years ago via a London art dealer. It's a 17th century work by Solomon van Rijsdale called View of Beverwijk, which has long been an item of suspicion for Victoria Reed, who's charged with researching works of questionable histories as the MFA's curator of provenance. She was the first person ever to hold such a position when it was first created back in 2010, and clearly the work continues. Victoria Reed, congratulations and good to meet you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Now, when I read that you were the curator of provenance, I cannot tell a lie. I had to look it up. For the few people who, well, for the many people who probably don't know, what do you do? What is it exactly?
So provenance is the history of ownership of a work of art. Basically, it's biography from the time it was created until the present. So my job is to research the provenance of the works of art that are in the museum's collection, as well as those works of art that we are considering bringing in as new acquisitions or on loan. So we want to make sure that we're not bringing anything in that was looted or stolen.
Would you be offended if I were to refer to you as a museum detective of sorts? Is that
I would not be offended. Many people have said that.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to give you an impossible task. In 60 or 90 seconds, can you explain the incredible story that led you and the heirs of Chorin to connect and allow you to do what the MFA is doing?
I will try. So we had this painting since 1982. We knew nothing about its provenance before that time. We were told it came from a Swiss private collection, and the painting had a fragmentary label on the back that appeared to be in Hungarian. So we had some indication that it had come from Hungary, but we didn't know anything about its World War II whereabouts. Because it came from Hungary, it was a priority for me for a long time, but I was never able to put the pieces together to figure out where it had come from. In 2019, a scholar wrote to us and gave us new provenance information for the painting. He told us that it had been in the Hungarian Gluck collection in the 20s. I updated the provenance record online, and within a year, the family located the painting on the MFA's website and made a claim for it and provided documentation that allowed us to finally put some of these pieces together.
Beautifully done in 60 seconds. How satisfying is that when the connection is made after that long search? I can't imagine.
It's very gratifying. I'm always very happy to get the problem files off my desk. And really, this is why we do what we do. This is why we have our collection online. This is why we put provenance information online. Because even if we have gaps or we don't know the significance of a particular piece of information, there are others out there who might be looking for that work of art. So it's really important to have that strong internet presence. I think it helps.
You know, the Boston Globe quotes the lawyer for the family, for the descendants, as saying it was a model restitution process. And I was trying to read between the lines, and tell me if I'm being overly cynical. Is model restitution meant that you did the right thing and decided to give it back, unlike what some other museums do when they fight like hell to hold on to a piece they probably shouldn't. Is that unfair?
Well, I think what was really wonderful about this particular process is that it happened very quickly, and it was a very, very clear-cut case. Many of these Nazi art claims can become very complicated, and sometimes they do take years to research and to get to the bottom of the issues. In this case, it was very clear that it was the same painting. It was very clear that the family had lost the painting and had never recovered it. So it wasn't difficult to make an institutional decision.
You know, when you were describing at the top of the segment what a curator of provenance does, you didn't just say that we try to track paintings in our collections that may have origins that would suggest we shouldn't have this to begin with. You added to that you also take a look at acquisitions to make sure, sort of in a preventive sort of way. That suggests to me, I guess what's obvious, is that the ethics of such acquisitions have changed through the years. Is that a fair statement?
That is absolutely fair. I think when we purchased the rice sale in 1982, the museum did not ask any questions about its provenance. We did not get any information from the dealer. The traces of a Hungarian language label did not appear to have raised any red flags at the time. Today, the process would be very, very different. We would ask for information, we would ask for paperwork, and we would be very attuned to Nazi era losses.
I didn't just be, but it seems to me that as a museum goer, not a museum expert, that there must have been a tipping point somewhere in the last couple of decades, because it's not just the MFA, even though this thing was exemplary. It seems to be industry-wide. Was there a moment, or was it just an evolution through the years?
There was certainly a moment in 1998 when the Washington Conference on Holocaust-era Assets was convened, and 44 nations met and affirmed, among other things, affirmed a commitment to locating works of art that had been lost during the Holocaust. And so what followed was, in the United States, museum guidelines issued by our sort of industry leaders, mandating that museums conduct provenance research and put that research online. So that was a big sea change in how museums dealt with these issues.
So Victoria, I love perfect circles, and let me paint a perfect circle and tell me if it's possible. From what I understand from the Globe story, that this painting now, once returned, will be put up for auction. I think it's at Christie's, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, at Christie's.
In April of this year. It seems to me the perfect circle would be if the MFA bid for it and won the bidding. Is that a possibility?
Well, what I will say is that when we determined that we did not legally own this painting, we had a conversation with the heirs, and what to do with the painting is always the result of a conversation. Mm-hmm. There have been instances in the past where the museum has offered to purchase a stolen work of art, sort of for a second time, from the rightful owners. In this case, there was a curatorial decision, as well as the decision of the heirs, not to retain the painting at the museum and to return it.
So does that mean that it precludes your involvement in the auction? Is that what you're saying to me?
I think that's unlikely.
Unlikely. Congratulations on some wonderful work. It's a great outcome, and thank you so much for your time. It's good to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks.